My name is Kristin Wilkinson. I work for NOAA Fisheries in the Protected Resources Division based in Seattle, Washington. I'm the Regional Stranding Coordinator and oversee our West Coast Marine Mammal Stranding Network partners in Washington and Oregon. So we're going to be talking in this presentation a little bit about large whale deterrence and the authorization required to perform those activities in the event of an oil spill. So just a disclaimer, this presentation addresses large whales in general, and there are specific plans in place for southern resident killer whales, which are a critically endangered species. A couple of documents that are very helpful and that I would encourage you to look at are the Pinniped and Cetacean Oil Spill Response Guidelines. Those are available online for free and download, and also the Northwest Wildlife Response Plan. So we do have a marine mammal chapter in that section, and I'd encourage you to take a look at those. So as an overview, in general, intervention on free swimming cetaceans likely will not be initiated because of the risks associated with capture. I'd also like to note that intervention can take place without a capture of an individual animal, which might include hazing or monitoring. So the social structure of some species may also cause undue stress on healthy pod members when capture techniques are used to catch injured individuals. This is a good example with killer whales. They have a very strong bond and social structure, and so we might be monitoring animals that may be impacted by an oil spill instead of trying to intervene and capture. So if special circumstances warrant intervention, the decision to capture should consider a multitude of different factors, such as the sex of the animal, its age, its reproductive state, the size, and then thinking about the risks and benefits. And ideally, the benefits of the capture would outweigh any potential negative consequences to our activities. So large cetaceans are highly mobile, and the likelihood of these animals staying in contact with surface oil is likely limited for most oil spill situations. If large cetaceans are reported to be moving through these oiled areas, we're looking for very detailed observations, and monitoring of these individuals should absolutely take place. So you can see that we have a wide variety of marine mammals in the West Coast region. You can see that we range from minke whales, primarily in the Strait of Juan de Fuca, to gray whales and humpback whales. Again, we've got killer whales in our area, 3 different ecotypes, as well as small cetaceans. And again, we'll be focusing primarily on those large cetaceans for this presentation. The species most likely to be impacted, again, would be killer whales, gray whales, humpback whales, and also minkies. So thinking about some of the decision-making and that process, you can see there's lots of different questions that the team would be asking themselves on what necessary steps would need to take place. So some of the different factors taken into account before hazing. So if animals are moving towards a spill, moving through a spill, some of the questions that we're going to be asking is, what is the location and the size, the extent of the spill? What are alternative areas that those marine mammals could be hazed into, where they wouldn't be coming into contact with oil or maybe oil spill response activities? And also what species are present or likely to be at risk. So there's a number of different tools that we can utilize to try to determine what animals might be in those areas. One might be reaching out to different sighting networks and seeing if they are getting any reports of marine mammals in the area. And then also, what's the life history status of the animals that are at risk? One thing that we might be thinking about on the pinniped side is, do we have mom-pup pairs? Or in the event of a large whale, is there a calf with a humpback whale, for example? Are the species present? Are they just migrating through the area? Or is that an area that they're relying on consistently? Like Port Susan, for example, for gray whales. We know that they spend several months in that area feeding on ghost shrimp. If that area is impacted, that's going to be part of the decision-making process. And then also, what is their behavior in that area? Are they foraging? Are they resting? What are they doing, and how are they utilizing that area? And then also, who's available with experience and the knowledge for hazing those species at risk, if that's the best next step? And then, are there techniques known to work on the species at risk? So if a decision is made to haze, or there needs to be some type of response, we also need to be thinking about, are the necessary supplies and the equipment to implement those techniques, or could they be obtained quickly? What are the environmental conditions? Is it safe for a response team to go out? Can the hazing plan be enacted in a safe manner for both the responders and for the animals that are being impacted? And then also, in some situations, hazing and monitoring activities may be the only mitigation measures possible for marine mammals during an oil spill, as capture and rehabilitation of large cetaceans is impractical. So some of the questions that we just reviewed are available in a decision tree, and you can work through this decision-making process with starting with a key question of, are whales within 50 miles of the spill? And then moving into that yes or no scenario. So this is kind of a risk assessment opportunity, and just thinking about the different impacts to those activities. Is there a low risk, a medium risk, or high risk to large cetaceans? And again, if a hazing plan is put into place, then the hazing group supervisor will develop a cohesive plan to deter wildlife from entering a spill area for unified command approval. That will then be incorporated into the incident action plan before any type of operations or field response is taken. So the plan should also include a protocol for deciding if those implemented techniques should be continued or modified. Is this working? Is this effective? And then these metrics and decision trees will likely be case specific, depending on the species involved, the availability of different options, and then also just the logistics of that specific scenario. So some of the different techniques that have been utilized are these Okome pipes. So it's a metal pipe with a cap on top. There's a handle on the top of the pipe and a cone at the bottom of the pipe, which really helps the sound reverberate. And numerous pipes and numerous boats can be lined up to utilize this methodology. Another thing used is seal bombs, which are basically underwater firecrackers, and also cracker shells. So these are explosive devices that put out a pulse of noise and then an associated pressure wave, especially when it's detonated in the water. And of course, every goal is to have no injury to any marine mammal as part of these activities. Another thing that could be utilized is an acoustic deterrent device, or net pingers. So they make sound not loud enough to cause pain, but enough to get hopefully their attention. Some are audible to certain species of marine mammals, others may not. So you could potentially target a specific species using a deterrent device. And then also pre-recorded calls. So calls made by conspecifics or even predators could potentially be played from a small boat to theoretically attract marine mammals towards a safe area or deterring them from entering a spill area. So another thing that could be used is just noise from vessel traffic. So the noise and motion of boat traffic could be used to potentially drive marine mammals from an area or deter them from entering one. Another method is using a fire hose. So fire hoses could be used to direct streams of water at whales on the surface that may be in extremely close range to a spill area. Another thing that could be used is aircraft. So helicopters can generate a fair amount of noise and wave movement at close range and could potentially produce a startle or avoidance response by marine mammals moving into that area. There's other methodologies here that you can see, such as strobe lights and bubble curtains and booms could potentially provide a visual deterrence to marine mammals. So if you're able to catch the presentation I gave on permitting, that gives a little bit more information about our permit, but our nationwide program, the Marine Mammal Health and Stranding Response Program, does have a permit for stranding and entanglement response, but also allows us to conduct emergency response in situations like an oil spill. So our network partners can potentially assist in the event of an oil spill and help with response, rescue, rehabilitation, and release of threatened and endangered marine mammals under NOAA's jurisdiction. So NOAA has jurisdiction over whales, dolphins, porpoises, seals, and sea lions. And you can see a copy of our permit here. So again, in an emergency response, it allows our program to conduct health-related scientific research on marine mammals under Section 104, Title IV of the Marine Mammal Protection Act, and also Section 10 under the Endangered Species Act. And this includes research related to emergency response that may involve compromised animals during an emergency event. And that could be an oil spill, it could be a mass stranding, could be an unusual mortality event, or another natural or man-made disaster. So if we're thinking about killer whale, particularly southern resident killer whale response, there are some additional authorizations and steps that go along to responding to those species in the event of an oil spill. And you can see here there is a template form for documentation of Endangered Species Act Section 7. So an emergency consultation would take place if any emergency response activities needed to be done as part of the oil spill.